Okay, so here's our second lecture involving, and this will be more of a demonstration involving database design. And we kind of left off, I'll refer to your Grauer textbook here. And we were working with figure 2.2, which is on page 740. And Grauer came up with a design for the database, and then I kind of created a similar design, but I was a little more detailed in my final product here. So if you compare what I have up here on the screen, which came out of our Visio, we worked with a piece of software that was really built for designing databases, and it was a diagramming software, versus what Grauer has over here on page 740, and that's figure 2.2. But they're the same. I have some different fields in there. I'm not as complete in my design. What I'd like to do now, though, is implement this in Microsoft Access. All right, so I open up Microsoft Access, and I have it open here. And the first thing to note is that I don't have a database. And unlike like Excel or Microsoft Word, where I can open up Microsoft Word, start typing, and not save anything, right away with Access, I have to create the database. In other words, I have to create a file. And if you want to think back to chapter 1, the difference between storage versus memory. Memory is RAM. Memory is volatile. We always start a word processing or spreadsheet file in memory. And we've all had that ugly thing happen where the power goes out or something, and we lose all of our information. All right? With a database, we write directly to storage. It's another advantage of a database, is it goes right to storage. So right away we have to give our database a name before we even start creating tables. So I'll call this my bank example. All right, so I give it a name, and then I have to hit create. And when I do this, that initiates a process where it actually has created a file, and I have a place for storage. Okay, now I will get messages from time to time in Access asking me if I want to save. And what that is saving is the design, not the records, but the design. All right. So here we, and from your reading out of chapter 2, remember we have our two views for a table. Okay, so here is, and I need to, if this is a new table, I need to give it a name. And my first table for my design was customers. Okay, and so right now when I do that, now I'm in design view, and I hit view again. Now I'm in data sheet view. Design and data sheet. Okay, so when I'm in data sheet, it's just like a spreadsheet. My field names are listed across the top, and then every row is a record. When I go into design view, this is where I actually create my fields. I design my database here. All right, so let me go back over to my PDF document here, and maybe we can try and squeeze both these on a screen at the same time. We can see these. Okay, there, I got both of them there now. All right, so I have all the information I need to create this. First, this is an integer, and we're actually using a feature in Access known as auto numbering. What auto numbering is, if you look down here in this table here, it's a long integer. All right, but what auto number does is anytime there's a new value here, it increments it. Okay, so we will never have, remember, primary keys need to be unique. That means we can't have any duplicates. All right, so we choose auto number. By the way, Access signifies this as a primary key. If you look closely here with something that looks like a key right there. Okay, so there's my primary key, and I'm going to call mine customer ID. Okay, and I can also be descriptive with this. All right, let's go my next one. First, use my camel case name. In text, and we have that, actually I have 256, it should be 255, but I could change the field size right down here. Okay, let's go on to the next field. Last name. That's text also. State. Okay, and we're going to make that text. We're going to change the field size of that because we used a 2-letter abbreviation to 2. All right, and then social security number. And in that one, we're going to make that one an integer. So I'll go down and just call that a number. By default, that's a long integer. Okay? So there's my, based upon my design, here's my 4 fields. Actually 5 fields because I got primary key there. And now I'm going to move over here just a little bit. All right, and let's go now to datasheet view. So I have my database created here. It'll ask me if I want to save, and again, I'm not saving the the records here. I'm saving the structure. And now I have my table that's created, my data table, and I can start putting records in there. Okay, so we'll put a record in, Jane Doe, and we could put the state in and the social security number. By the way, watch this. Let's say I try to put in the whole word Montana, M-O-N. Hear that beeping? It only allows me to put in 2 characters. So I have constrained my data. Okay, it's our first lesson. Great. Okay, I can only put 2 characters in there. Let's do some more data constraining. Okay, and let's go under state here. One of the field properties we can do is we can put a default value down here. And I'm going to say that most of my customers in my banking community are from the state of Montana. So I'm going to create that as the default value. Now watch what happens when I go back to view now. I'll need to save my structure. In any new customers I create, the default value for state will be MT. So here's Johnny Johnson. And right away his state is Montana. Okay? Let's make one more altercation to my design here, and let's go down to social security numbers. And generally speaking, social security numbers have 3 digits, hyphen, 2 digits, hyphen, and 4 more digits. So let's put what's known as an input mask. An input mask tells me a pattern for all data to be entered in a field. Here's what I want my mask to be. I want number, 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 hyphen, number, number, hyphen, number, 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 number. Okay, and that matches my social security format. Okay, I'll go back and I'll save my table. Now let me put some social security numbers in. Do you see when I click in here now, it gives me that format? So I'll put in 111222333. 3. There we go. Same here. 555667777. Okay, great. So I've created my first table here. I've actually constrained some of my data to make it more accurate. I have a primary key set up, and I think for the most part my design here, or my table, matches up with the design I've created. All right, let me very quickly go through and let's create, because I have other tables here, let me create my other 2 tables. Okay, we'll start with bank branch next, and then we'll go on to accounts. Just a little bit here so we can see both these. All right, so I need to create a new table, so I'll go over here to create. I'll say new table. And let me give this a name first, all right? So I'm going to go to, let's do this. Can I rename it here? Rename. Okay. Well, it's open. Let me go to view here. It's going to require me to do it here. So this is called bank branch. All right. It's important that I have consistency here. And what I mean by consistency, that I don't have bank space branch or bank underscore branch. I have bank branch, one word. All right, so my primary key is going to be my branch ID. I'm going to leave that as an auto number. My location is going to need to be text, 256 characters. And my manager, we decided to leave that as text also. Okay? So great. That one's created. And let me create a branch here. Let's say the, I don't know, the South Avenue branch. All right, and the manager is let's put a name in here. Let's say it's Tina Smith. Okay, and so we got some records in there. All right, so I have customers, I have a bank branch. Now let's create some accounts, and so I'll need one more table here according to my design. So I'll say table. And this particular table, let's go ahead and create it, and this is going to be my accounts table. All right, and I'm going to leave my auto number for my account ID. All right, but then I want to create a customer ID, and that's going to be on well, it's going to be an integer, but we're going to, let me expand this. Let's take a look at these. Remember, these are special. Let's stretch this out a little bit here. And these two guys are special fields. In other words, they're foreign keys. Remember, definition of foreign key is that it's a primary key in a related field. So we're going to relate customers to accounts and bank branch to accounts. And what will be connected is that in an account, the customer ID is a foreign key in the accounts table, but it's also the primary key in the customers table. And then the branch ID is a foreign key in the accounts table, but it's the primary key in the bank branch table. See how that works? Let me show you how I hook those up, and then we'll look at how the relationships are formed in Access. Okay? So I go over here. All right, and I'm going to have this. I'm going to drop down my list here, and one of the nice wizards that is contained is the ability to connect these guys. This is a Microsoft Access only feature. You don't see this other places. So it creates a little lookup wizard. I said I want to look up field to get the value from another table or query. Okay, great. So my customer ID comes from the customer table, and I'm going to put the customer ID in there, but I'm also going to bring in first name, last name, so I see the whole works. Okay, and I'll just hit next. And I'm not going to hide my key column. I'm going to show all of that initially here. So we'll go ahead and create that. I'll say yes. So this is going to record a number here. Okay, great. Let's do the same thing here for branch ID. My branch ID is a foreign key. So I'm going to do a lookup wizard, and I'll look up that in the branch or bank branch table. And I'm going to select the branch ID, which is primary key in the branch bank or bank branch table, and the location. And I'll hit all the defaults. And I want to show these just so that we have all the information here. Okay? And I'll hit yeah, and we need to save that. And then let me do a view here. And of course, I haven't created any yet. Okay? But let's see what this did, because we want to match up our design. My design looks like this. All right, and there's another tool here. If we go to database tools, and you looked at this in chapter 1 called relationships. Now check this out. See how we've created, by doing that lookup wizard, we've created these foreign keys, but we've also created relationships that take place that actually match up with my initial database design. So when you guys were looking at this and thinking, well, wait, I'm not a database designer, where am I going to bring this in? Well, the tool I'm using here in Visio allows me to create the same structure as I do in Access. And you can see now, hopefully this all matches up here. All right, I got these two guys flipped, but we can change that. Okay, and so these should, when we're all done here, these should be the same, shouldn't they? All right, we'll look that over, but I think we're pretty close on that. All right, let's do this now. So I'm going to get rid of I'm going to close my relationships here. All right, and let's create now an account. And let's say we're going to take Jane Doe, and we're going to create an account for her at the South Avenue branch. Okay, do you see all we record in here is ID numbers? Let's do one more. Let's take Johnny Johnson, and he's going to have an account at the South Avenue branch. Okay, and now we're starting to connect up our data. All right, and then granted, when you see it in a table, it doesn't quite look the way we want it to look, but we're going to see this is where we start to bring into play the idea of a query, which is covered before this chapter is over. All right, so that's our design.